Hi everyone, thank you for joining me on my book channel, Off by Heart Books. I'm Mo, and today I'm going to do a quick review on The Kiss Quotient by Helen Hoang. So this book is really surprising in the sense that I didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I did. This is, as far as I know, a first-time release, first book from Helen, and I believe she has another book coming along the way in 2019. Anyways, this book was released June 5th, 2018. I pretty much got it on June 5th because there was a lot of hype going in for this book. It was making a lot of top 20 lists. It was just the buzz around, I guess, blogs and such focusing on books. So it was a pretty hyped up release and I was really looking forward to it. So to give a brief synopsis about what the book is about, there's two main characters. Stella Lane would be the main voice of the book, even though it does switch points of view from her. But the main character, the main protagonist, is Stella Lane. Stella Lane is a lovely, accomplished 30-something woman who's an economist, and she creates a program that has an algorithm that studies purchasing patterns of the sexes. Very bright woman, very educated. She makes a lot of money. She's pretty accomplished, straightforward woman. What makes her a very interesting protagonist and sets her apart from your regular heroines and leading ladies in romantic novels is that Stella Lane is on the spectrum of autism. So she is an autistic woman. Previously, I believe the terminology was Asperger's syndrome, but I don't believe it's referred to that any longer. It's considered on the spectrum of autism. Anyways, she identifies as an autistic woman, and I believe the author herself is autistic, so that already lends support to it being a more truthful in voice novel, and you get a more authentic, I guess, characterization of someone that is dealing with that and also living their normal day-to-day functional productive life. So she's a very interesting, lovely character. She's the main one. And then we also have Michael Hoang, or to be referred to as Michael Larson later on in the book. He is a sex worker or a prostitute, if you want to call him that. And he has a pretty good reason for being in that line of work. Not to pass judgment on sex workers, you don't necessarily have to have a reason or a tragic backstory as to why you're doing that kind of work. I don't want to really go into the ins and outs of the morality of being in that position. I just simply want to talk about the book. But these two characters meet together very quickly within the book. So within the first chapter or so, you get a really good establishing background as to who these characters are, their motivations, why they are the way they are, and they meet very quickly. So how they meet, Stella has a very interesting coworker who is kind of jabbing at her, I guess poking fun at her love life or lack thereof. And I guess it gets her thinking that, you know what, I would like to have a little bit more experience in the love department. I am a 30-plus woman, and despite the condition I have, I would like to be better. I would like to be a better lover. Let me put it that way. I'd want to be better at intimacy, having intercourse, relations. So she comes up with this idea very quickly that, you know what, I'm just going to hire an escort. I'm going to hire someone from an escort service, and they're going to teach me the ins and outs of being a great lover and a great partner to someone, because she eventually would like to have a romance. In enters Michael Hoang. So they end up meeting, and from there the book takes off, and we get to explore the different motivations of these characters, and we get to explore their intimacy and their growing connection to one another. And then they realize as they go forth that this arrangement is a little bit more unorthodox than at first presented. So I will say, in the first 50 pages of this book, I wasn't really sure if this was going to be the book for me. I didn't have a problem with the angle of a love interest being an escort or being a sex worker. I didn't have a problem with that. I knew going in that this was going to be an adult book, and I hope that's not a spoiler to anyone. This is definitely not a young adult book. It's very much adult, and there's a lot of adult situations in it, obviously, because the main motivation of the character Stella is that Stella Lane wants to be a better lover. She wants to feel more comfortable engaging in intimate acts and in intimacy. And I'm assuming that being on the spectrum for autism, it takes a level of trust to be able to allow yourself to be vulnerable to someone. I can't imagine how much more difficult that would be when you're dealing with that. I mean, just for anyone in general, opening up yourself emotionally and otherwise, it would be pretty daunting. So the first 50 or some odd pages I felt were a little, I'm trying to find a tactful word here. I thought it was just a little shaky at first. I wasn't really sure about the voice of the characters, and I was thinking to myself, okay, this may not be the book for me. But then after 50 or some odd pages, the ball really gets figuratively rolling, and it gets really engaging, and you really come to root for Stella, and you come to really root for Michael. They're both flawed people, but their courtship actually turns out to be very sweet. Despite the subject matter, it's very, very sweet, and it's very honest, and the more you delve into the book, the more enjoyable it gets. So it's definitely a book I would say stick with it. Don't judge it from like the first chapter or so. Give it a couple of chapters, maybe give it 3 or so chapters to really get its footing and its groove, and then you really will come to enjoy it. There's a few side characters here and there that I liked that made appearance in this book. Stella's co-worker, however, Philip, if you come to read this book, was really unenjoyable. I really didn't like him as an antagonist, but I understand that he was an important part of the book and important plot point as you go forward in it. But overall, I found it a really enjoyable book. It's a pretty quick read. Like I said, the book was released June 5th. I finished it in a day and a half at most, so it wasn't that difficult of a read. And Helen, I think, is going to be a really amazing author to look out for. I really loved how these characters came to be, and there's definitely a lot of steamy adult situations in the book. She's incredibly good at writing intimacy, let me put it that way. Overall, I just found the characters really enjoyable, and the book was a pretty fast read after I got over those initial introductory chapters. With every book, you kind of have to set the stage, you kind of have to set the tone for the characters or motivations. You kind of get all the exposition, all the extra information out first, and then the reader can engage and see, okay, this is what's happening, this is where we're gonna go, da 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 da. So overall, I'm really happy that I purchased the book. I don't regret it at all. I most likely would read it again. It was that good for me, and I really look forward to more from this author because this is the type of genre I really like. I like contemporary romance. It's probably one of my favorite types of books to read overall. I read all sorts of books, but this is definitely right up my alley. So if you are at all curious, I would say believe the hype. Go pick up the Kiss Quotient. It is really smart, really snappy, a lot of sizzling romance, and it's very heartwarming, and you end up connecting to the characters in a way, and I found myself very protective of Stella Lane. Very much so. She's a lovely, delightful character. I really like Michael. It's funny, there's a couple of funny moments in the book where the author makes a point of saying more than once that Michael looks like the actor Daniel Henney. So if you're someone that's into K-drama, you might be familiar with that actor. If not, Google him. He's absolutely beautiful. So it'll be interesting to see if this book will become adapted into a screenplay or into like a TV movie or for a theatrical widescreen release. I actually would look forward to it. I think as far as the book characters go, and I didn't even mention the character Michael is actually half Vietnamese, I believe. So it's nice to see representation from romantic heroes and romantic heroines. I like seeing diversity in books. I like seeing big releases where the characters aren't the usual, unfortunately to say it, Caucasian protagonists. I don't have a problem reading books with Caucasian protagonists, but it's also nice to get a little bit more inclusive as far as representation. And I like the fact that his background is different. And I like that we have the voice of someone that actually deals with autism as the leading character. I believe that we definitely need more stories from people from different walks of life. And I appreciate the fact that we can see these people as, you know, emotionally sexual healthy beings, that these people have every bit as the same motivations and same desire to have companionship like anyone else, because we're all human. We all have pretty similar motivations at the end of the day. I mean, we're all different and unique. Not everyone is looking for romance. Not everyone's looking for companionship and to be in partnership, of course, but it's not to take away from the fact that there's other groups of people that should be represented on the front stage, so to speak. So I was really happy with the book overall. Hopefully you'll take the time and actually pick this book up. If you've heard any hype about it, believe me, it's well deserved. Anyways, thank you for stopping by my channel. I am Mo. I am going to try to get this channel up and going and delve more into books that I love and enjoy. Alrighty, take care. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Bye.